Brett Perigo, tonight's second place finisher. Plenty of fans here, Brett, and a solid second place finish.
Yeah, I got to shout out the Turn 2 Terribles over there. They're all a bunch of good guys to hang out with, talk to. I really like them.
How are you doing tonight, man?
Hey, I'm talking here. You know who you're talking to? Macho Man! I'm on my way to Monday Night Raw.
How do I want to answer the second one?
Your choice.
It's a trap.
I feel like it is. I feel like he's setting up fights in the front stretch. Is what he's trying to do.
Speedway. We've got Devin Board with us
At Keen Motorsports Shop here with Kyle Keen.
Sitting here with Sean Keen. We're going to talk a little bit about racing history.
Yep.
What's going on? It is Tuesday, September 17th. I am Jimmy here with Jay-Z. Chris is a little busy this week with some work and stuff going on, so we'll miss our buddy Chris this week, but we are the Turn 2 Terribles. Thanks everybody so much for joining us tonight. We got a couple things to go over tonight. We're going to recap the past week, but the first we're going to do is we're going to bring in our special guest tonight, Domenic Melair. He's been having a really good season in the 410s here, showing constant improvement here, and we're going to talk to him about that, get to know him a little bit better, and see what his thoughts are on the season and maybe what the future holds for him. And then we're just going to go over some of the results from the weekend and look at some point standings as well, because we're getting right to that time here where these points standings are coming down to the final 3-4 races or so. So it's getting tight in some aspects, and in some it's kind of almost decided. So we'll take a look at those. As always, thanks everybody in the chat that's joining us live every week here, no matter if it's Monday or Tuesday. Sorry for it being a Tuesday. Randy says, good evening, Jay-Z, Jimbo, and Chris. Santos says, checking in. Thrilled to have finally met Jay-Z. Man, what an awesome guy. We think so, too, obviously. Brad Weatherby says, what's up? Andrew Zahner, what's going on? Carson hosts of Our Money. That's my cousin. We got to go to Watkins Glen on Sunday, and if anybody listens to Sirius XM radio, I actually got on as we're waiting in traffic to leave the track. My cousin won a bunch of money thanks to Carson Hocevar's top 5. So we're big Carson Hocevar fans now. So yeah, shout out to him. Craig says, Chris isn't there. I'm not watching. I know our viewers count's going to drop. But yeah, so Jay-Z, man, how are you?
I'm good. Weird on a Tuesday, but I can't keep Jimmy from watching his Eagles lose in person. Can't hold you back from that. Listen, I can't hold you back from that. So I'm glad you got to experience it, and all of us got to experience it with you. I don't feel nearly as bad as you do this morning because I am not a fan. So we're here to talk racing now. I'm excited for this one.
Yeah, I got to go to Watkins Glen on Sunday, which was awesome. Great time, first time there. I'll definitely go back probably every year because it was just awesome. And then got to go to the Eagles game yesterday, and doing this evening.
I'm good. Thanks for having me, guys. You didn't say you went to Watkins Glen too. That's quite the weekend.
Yeah, I'm dragging a little bit. I got home at 4:00 in the morning, and then I had the past. It's been a couple days, but it was fun. Well worth it.
Jeez.
No doubt.
Yeah,
Hey, man,
I appreciate you guys having me on. Yeah.
Yeah, no worries. This is one we've wanted to do for a little bit here, and I think it's great timing with what you've had going on this season.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on. You know, I feel like a lot of people don't know me, and I kind of came out of nowhere. So, yeah, you get to meet me now.
Yeah, let's talk about that because there's questions I have. There's things I like. I know your name. I've seen you run some 305 stuff, obviously this year in the 410 the last couple of years. But there's a lot I don't know, and I'm sure a lot of our fans don't know. And there might be 3 or 4 of them here. So hey, someone's going to get to know you better. We're never quite sure who's watching, so we find out a lot of times a week after. We're going to find out and be like, oh, we don't get to see that stuff. So. Tell us a little bit about your background, man, and your family's history in racing up to current events. Give us a little bit of timeline on your family and your racing career.
Yeah, so my dad ran the 6-cylinder late models at Grandview, and he ran Sportsman Modifieds for a little bit, and then quit that once I started racing quarter midgets. I got my start in quarter midgets in 2001 when I was 5. And quarter midgets were badass at the time, 1,000 cars at the national races and, alcohol fueled motors. And it was a cool deal. We traveled the country with the Courtneys and the Reinhardts and the Becks and the Reesters. And it was just an awesome time and a lot of competition. We stopped that in 2010, somewhere around there. And then after that, I had the opportunity to run some TQ midgets, a little bit of micro stuff, and I got to run a shifter cart a couple of times, and just nothing that we really wanted to get into at the time. And I was running track and field at the time. I was a sprinter in high school, and I was pretty good. Got a state medal and went to college and got a partial scholarship for that. So then. Ended up graduating college, and I'm 2 years into college, I was like, I really want to go racing. Dad, can we go racing after I graduate here? And that was always the plan. Then he passed away a couple months after I graduated, so we stuck to that plan. We got a roller from Todd Rittenhouse. This was back in I'm going to say 2018. Got a roller from Todd Rittenhouse. You guys might know him from Lincoln. He ran 358s there and 410s for a while. And then I got a motor from it was half owned by Lou Ciccone and half owned by Mark Bittner. So I ended up buying that and went to Bridgeport and was like, okay, we can do this. And then So it was me, my mom, and my brother, and we weren't mechanically inclined at the time, and we didn't even touch the quarter midgets. We had a chassis guy and my dad and the motor guy that would travel with us, and I just drove. So I didn't know anything about this stuff, and so I literally took the roller, took the motor, went out and went racing, and just made sure all the bolts were tight, and ended up going to the Grove after Bridgeport and destroyed the thing going into turn 3. And that was probably the best thing that could have happened in my return to racing because I had to go back and learn how to build a car from scratch and do my homework and try and learn about setups, which is the hardest part of the whole deal. And we're here now. So it's been a long road, but it's been tough.
So that little bit gives me a ton of questions. First of all, where'd you go to school? Where'd you run track at school?
Bloomsburg.
Did you say that?
I quit.
missed that. So,
Bloomsburg University.
Okay. And what did you major in other than track and partying? Did you study?
Communications.
Okay.
So yeah,
And
a lot of partying. So.
So I know racing's not a full-time job at this point. So are you open to saying what you do for a living at this point?
Yeah, I'm a project manager / estimator for a company that does site work and paving, and utilities.
Okay.
I was doing elevators, and then I actually just switched careers over the winter. So yeah, that's going good.
What gave you the confidence to take a sprint car that you don't know how to work on, build, or fix, and just here we go? Like, did you know how to strap it down in the trailer and like start it and unload it? And like you bought a roller, so how did you learn this stuff with nothing?
Yeah, Mark Bittner helped me put the motor in the first time, so I learned how to do that. And after I destroyed that car, I knew how to put the motor in, knew how to put fuel lines together from that. And then, I forgot that I had friends in the racing community that I could call and ask, which is what I should have done from the beginning. But I probably could have gone about that better. But, it is what it is.
We call that experience. Usually screwing things up or not knowing how to do it, screw it up. That's called experience or life lessons, right? So you've come a long way. So what year was that you destroyed the car and had to learn how to build it?
2018 or 2019, something like that.
And that was a 305 or?
Yeah, that was a 305 with the Pass Series.
Okay. And you did a couple years in Pass. You're in the 410 now, but your brother races, right?
Yeah. So in like 2021, I fireballed a motor. It wasn't a blow up. It was a fireball. I have a picture of it. It's pretty crazy. But after that, Larry McVeigh let me use his motor for a couple races, and then I got a call from Rod Ort, who's the one who owns that Red 36. He also runs the Pass Series. Great guy, great team. Will give you the shirt off your back. Kevin and Craig on that team are awesome. So he called me to drive his car, and we had a lot of great success. Got a few wins, and that was a good deal. And then after that, Larry let me run his 360 at the end of the year at Bridgeport, and the way the Pass Series works, you get penalized if you go and run different classes. So it was either stick with the 305 or continue on up the ladder. So I decided to continue on up the ladder. And when I felt really bad about leaving that car because they really gave me a great opportunity. But my brother, he had just won a race at Lincoln and actually didn't go over the scales and got disqualified. But he won a race at Lincoln, so then I was like, my brother's the same size as me. The seat's already in there. Let him go and run it. I think that would be, ideal. We're same personality, same body size, everything. So it's like he got in the car and went out, and I think he won 3 races in. So and that deal's still going good. So
yeah, and I now I know today, but like you asked me a year ago. I know you're all related, but I was brothers. I didn't know your family history at that point, like a year ago. And this year I certainly do, and have paid attention more, and I knew the name. But I had no idea. So like I've seen you run the 305, and I know there's another Melair running the 305, but it could have been, I don't know, maybe not related, right? Like it could have been, a cousin or something. So getting to kind of know your family a little bit this year, and I think you could admit you've really come on the scene this second half of this season. So what were some things as you went up that ladder you talked about and got into a 410? What was that journey like, getting your butt kicked for a couple of years in the 410, and how did that get you to here? Like, what did you learn? How did it make you better as a driver, or was it just you needed the seat time?
I definitely needed seat time. We an old 270 head fell into my lap end of 2022, and we plugged it in and practiced and ran like 2 or 3 races, and was just making laps. And then it was weird. We came in the next season and we started and we got a little better, then a little better, and then like middle of July we had a couple of like 6th place finishes on like normal Lincoln tracks, and then we were running 5th almost all the way through the feature. It was either the Speed Week or the Speed Week tune-up race, and chucked the rod out of the oil pan. So that put me out for a little bit. But and then we had struggles obviously during that first real season. I think I only finished 10 races because if I was running top 15 or whatever, I would run the whole race out. But if the car's terrible and we're going backwards, I would just pull off right away. When the car's bad right away. So it's just like, don't put laps on the motor and live to fight another day.
Yeah, it turns out they don't get better halfway through when it's already bad from the start a lot of times, doesn't it?
No, they don't.
You kind of know. So go through that, and you're getting going. And clearly today in 2024, you have much better equipment. But I still want to go back to the beginning. You talked about your mom and your brother. Was that really all you had in the 410, even just kind of coming up through? And what other help did you have, if any?
Oh yeah. I would call some people and try and get some baseline hints on setup, but everybody does something different, and you can't ask somebody to just like give you a starting point. Like you're racing for money out there. This is the big leagues. It's hard to get information, and that was really hard. And I think those times we had success was remedied by the 2-inch wicker bill, because we could go out there and have a decent run and have grip. And then you got to do the same thing earlier in the night when you're on the 1-inch wicker bill and the car is just awful. So I think that was a big Band-Aid for that season. And then same thing the beginning of this season with only the 1-inch wicker bill. We were just terrible to start the season. But yeah, it was just me, and just a lot of the nights at Lincoln, it was just my mom and I. We come from 30 minutes north of Philadelphia, so it's like you can't ask somebody, come drive 2.5 hours to push a car around and scrape mud, Yeah. And it's hard enough to find decent help anywhere,
Yeah, for sure. So as you go into 2024 and you get going here, and like you said, having some struggles, not a lot of help, just you and mom, and what changed? First of all, let me actually back up. You kind of said you started with this motor that fell in your lap. I assume you've upgraded to something different at this point?
Yeah, so we got another one. Went out to Indy over the winter to get that, and it's a good motor. We bought it with unknowingly with a cracked block, which kind of sucked, and we found that out like 3 or 4 races after we put it on in 2024. So that put us out a month. But it is what it is.
Yeah, that whole I don't know much, but like a few guys that I'm close to talk about the what's the word I want to use? Probably I would say a borderline lack of integrity when it comes to selling used engines in that market, and the actual condition of them versus what they're represented as. I don't. That's just what I hear. But is that a bigger problem than many people know, you think?
The 270 that we got, that was, nobody knew the history on that, and it ran like a top. So it just depends, everybody's different, and I guess it depends who you're dealing with.
Yeah, and you got it. There's only so much checking out you can do before you make a purchase, haul it home, right? So
yeah, you can't pull the heads off in a Walmart parking lot when you're transferring it from truck bed to truck bed,
For sure. So you get going here this season, and some results have really started to turn the corner. Clinton County, I think, was kind of in that area. I was looking up some finishes this year, but what changed here in the second half? Any changes to the team, additions, subtractions? We all got smarter. What do you think has been a difference?
We got Lee Stauffer to come out and help us.
Oh, that makes you smarter, doesn't it?
Yeah, it
that
does.
helps.
Yeah. I don't know. It was just a timing deal. I have a big 48 by 24 whiteboard in my shop, and we got to July this season, and we were just awful the whole year. And we filled up the board with names, and Lee was at the top because I thought he might be available because I heard he was helping Jesse Attard during Speed Week. I actually went to the Grove Saturday, or was it? It might have been the Summer Nationals race. I'm not sure, but I went looking for him, and I guess they had split up at that point. And I had placed a call to him on Friday, left him a message, and in the meantime, I kept going down the list calling people, and it was like like one of those movies where you're trying to get the gang together, and this guy's in jail, this guy's dead, this guy's with a team, and I'm serious. It was actually like that, and Lee called me back. I got some bites from that, but Lee called me back that Tuesday, and we hit it off right away, and I think we're 5 or 6 races in together, and it's been pretty awesome so far.
Yeah, I think it's been we've all noticed, and so let me ask you this: so new crew chief and new paint scheme. That thing was silver with a white 55 for the first couple years. What prompted the change in design and colors? And it was so plain for so long, and now there's like color on this thing. So give me a little background on, was that in the plans the whole time, or it was like, hey, now's a good time?
That was in the hopper. The rap guys, they get to you when they get to you,
There it is. Good looking race car. I love that
beautiful car.
That Titan blue, Carolina blue.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I was Emerson Axum was in town, and he had the matte vinyl finish, so I went with that, and I like how it looks. But yeah, that was ordered. That was ordered over the winter. Finally got that in, and yeah, they did a great job on it. Fantastic job. And we picked up some sponsors over the winter too. So you want to showcase them and make your car look good. So that's what we did.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think then running good, I think, can also help you attract more sponsors. You got a good looking race car, starting to finish up front, getting some good finishes. So I actually want to ask you a question going back to the wrap a little bit, because I think the first race you broke that out, you decided to go up to Port Royal and miss a Lincoln race. What was that decision like? Because you've been pretty much a pretty loyal regular at Lincoln. What that particular weekend, what made you switch and go up to Port Royal? Was that to get ready for the Tusky, or was there something else that prompted that weekend?
Just I don't know. I knew Lincoln was going to be really heavy. Because it was humid and it was raining all day, and I figured if we're going to get a decent racetrack, Port Royal will be the place to go. Plus, it's twin features. Get more laps, get some experience. I don't think I've gone that fast in a race car in my life, so I think that was good for me, the way the track was. So yeah, that's just why we went up there.
Yeah, I was surprised. I think I forget what night that was. I think I ended up going to Lincoln, staying closer to home just because the weather was iffy that night. And I remember looking at the roster and rundown, and I'm going, Domenic Melair went to Port. I was like, whoa. So I'm kind of glad you came on, because I've kind of wanted to ask you that. But even at the racetrack, if there's drivers watching, I'll say hi to guys in passing, but I don't stop and bother people, especially when you all are getting ready to go. So I'm actually glad I remembered that, because I was curious, because that was there's been a few weeks this year where a lot of those Lincoln regulars have kind of just said, don't care, I'm out of here. So for various reasons, and your smile kind of was like, oh no, here's what's coming. So I'm glad that you had an answer of like, hey, we wanted to, there was factors, because depending on who I ask, I don't know what answer I might get, and I don't want to get anybody in trouble. So,
Yeah, I love Lincoln. Jerry's awesome. I think the management team this year is doing a good job. Yeah, I have nothing bad to say about Lincoln. Just I don't know, just the way it was that weekend. I love Port Royal too. I have a lot of laps at Port Royal. I probably have more laps at Port Royal than I do at Lincoln. Even running a whole season there, I have 3 or 4 years of 10, 15 races there a year in the 305. So, yeah.
And it's interesting when you look at that that track weekly Port Royal, and you look at some of the names racing there, and that past 305 series, man, you guys have a series there at Port Royal. You run a lot of races. The Garrett Bards, Nick Swigert was coming up when he was in the 410s. There's a lot of that 305 influence. Logan Wagner, right, ran 305s. There's a lot of that 305 influence that's running weekly. Kyle Keene, he likes going to Port. Have a lot of laps up there and feel semi-comfortable, right? I saw a whole different world in the 410, I'm sure. But it is interesting that you guys that ran a lot of laps in those 305s, 10 on a Saturday night, like, hey, Port Royal. So is that just a comfort thing, or is it like, because you're a Lincoln guy now, but what do you think it is with those guys that have kind of stayed up at like a Garrett Bard? Let's just use Garrett. It's not that he doesn't like short tracks, because clearly at Clinton County he's got it figured out. So
Yeah.
what do you think it is? Just a comfort level at like a Port Royal, or no? I'm not going to just use, because maybe Garrett Bard lives 5 miles away, but do you think that's just a comfortability and just all those laps?
I think so. I maybe had 1 or 2 races at Lincoln before I got in the 410, and now we're running there every week. So I definitely think comfort has something to do with it. Maybe proximity. I'm not sure where Derek Houck lives, but I think he's close to Port Royal. Garrett, I know Garrett just likes Port Royal. He had a lot of success there. We had some great races there. I love seeing his family and everybody, and sometimes it's just fun to get to different racetracks too.
Yeah. Oh, Devin Adams, that's another one, right? So Devin Adams,
Devin
same
Adams.
thing. So definitely one of those regulars that we saw race 305s for a bunch of years, and decided to do that. So if you had to describe your driving style and compare it to another driver, what would you say your driving style would most compare to? Again, success aside, just a driving style. Would you say that you model your driving style after anyone that stands out in your mind?
I'm not sure. I come from mostly asphalt before starting the 305 deal. That's a good question. I would have to think about that.
And I knew the reason to ask that, and it's okay that you don't have an answer, because you may not even know it yet. You're not really that far into this. But what I see when I watch you race, I even if you didn't have that top end top 5 time trial speed for the last couple of years, I don't think I've seen many times where you were out of control. And I feel like you have good car control. You can make speed, not on the wall when unless you have to be. I feel like you remind me a lot of like kind of Danny a little bit, as far as like just slower is faster. It looks like there's times where you're running inside the top 5 and it's just not. You don't look like you're just wheel stand off every corner and blowing the tires off of it to keep speed. I think that really does well a lot of times. 1-inch wicker bill, right? Trying to keep the tires under you, whatever, and these tires in general. So, I think maybe that's still developing for you. But if you had to pick, line was equal, would you rather run the top or the bottom?
Probably the top. Just I don't know. You get a better view of the track and where everybody's running, and it's easier to pass.
That's fair.
It's hard to get comfortable. I feel like I'm more comfortable now, ripping the top at Lincoln. 3 and 4 definitely. 1 and 2. You do have to get on the binders in 1 and 2, so it's a little harder to judge, and you're racing against guys that have been doing it for 10 years. But 3 and 4, I'm really comfortable with just sailing it in there.
1 and 2 at Lincoln is like probably one of the trickier corners that in Central PA. And I didn't really think about this a lot until maybe this year, watching like Matt Campbell run the top, and he's really good at it. But it looks very difficult. Does it? It almost looks like a shelf, and like
it's almost like Grandview. It like ledges off a little bit. It's really easy to get bit.
Exactly, and it's like you have to be on the brakes, but then how the hell do you run it really hard to make the speed you need when it's that far around and it ledges off? It looks very technical, and I could imagine not being very comfortable for a long time in 1 and 2. I've seen that bite a lot of guys.
Yeah, and it progresses a lot differently than 3 and 4. Not to say 3 and 4 is easy, but 3 and 4 is more of a cakewalk compared to 1 and 2. Even like sometimes coming out of 2, the top of it completely goes away and it's right against the wall, and it's hard to judge when that happens because you still have support getting halfway through the corner, and then it's just wall, and it's it's just hard to trust running up there, especially when you're in your own equipment.
And it is crazy when you watch races at Lincoln how much more aggressive guys are in 3 and 4 on sliders, because it doesn't shelve off. There's something there to support on the other end of it. The exit of 4 gets a little bit of a ledge sometimes you can lean on. Where 1 and 2, you don't see nearly as many aggressive sliders in 1 and 2 late in the races because there's nothing to lean on exit. It would just be you'd just be gone, right? Am I looking at that? Am I evaluating that right?
Yeah, you overcook it. You'll just sail off into the exit.
You'll Rudisill it into the wall and off a 2 there. So don't ever go full Rudisill, okay? I like it. But Jimmy, any fan questions? What do you got for him?
We got a couple. And this is what I was going to kind of ask here. Randy Kopp asked, "Are you running BAPS on Saturday?" And just kind of what does the rest of your season schedule possibly look like?
Yeah, we'll be at BAPS on Saturday. I'm actually putting together a new frame right now because the one I was running's pretty well toast. And then we're gonna go. We're not gonna run the Grove Outlaw Show. We'll be at the Lincoln Outlaw Show. Fingers crossed we're still together. And we're just gonna keep going until the weather gets below 50 degrees.
Gotcha.
If the Bridgeport 410 show happens, is that on your schedule?
It is. I love Bridgeport. It's my home track. I want to support Danny doing his promoter thing. If it's 30 degrees out, I can't. I don't want to do that to the motor. But if it's sunny and mid to low 50s, we'll be there.
I think last year it was like 80 degrees that day. It was warm. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we get that kind of weather again.
Yeah.
Santos asked, question I always ask all the new drivers on here is, any merch available?
Yes, we got shirts this year. They're very nice. Brian Paulus did them. And yeah, send me a message.
There you go. Send them a message. We'll try to get a link up too, maybe after the show, to send them a message here. Try to get you some shirt sales there. Jack Gunter asks, what are some goals you would like to achieve in the next few years? A points title, chasing money shows, and on top of that, I would ask, are there any tracks or events that maybe you're looking forward to trying to run here in the future?
Definitely want to win a race, a couple of them. I think if we're in the right situation, we could do that this weekend. I've never really been a points racer, so probably not a points title. And then chasing money shows. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I had if one more. If we had a little more luck fall our way, we would have been in the Tuscarora feature this year. So I think we can compete.
Yeah. So, go ahead.
Go ahead. Yep.
I was just going to ask you about that. That non-qualifiers win is a little bit underrated. Not only it was pretty good paying to win that race, but now you're locked in the next year, and that start, just to start that is a couple grand. Like, it's pretty good paying. What kind of impact did winning that race maybe have for maybe your program?
It was cool. I know it doesn't count as a win, but we still put ourselves in position to win it. And anybody else, you saw all the top 8 cars or whatever. They didn't not run it. I understand why the back half felt like they didn't have a chance to move up. So I totally get that decision, but we put ourselves in position to be there. And I saw Skylar G change the motor, so I'm like, we'll probably be on the pole of this. We have a good shot if we can just beat Bishop into one, and ended up doing that, and then had to beat Brenham Crouch into one and did that, and yeah, it just worked out.
Yeah, that turn 1 was a little sketchy with Austin. You guys were both going for it, and I was holding my breath for both of you. I like both you guys, and I was like, oh no. And then I was like, okay, they made it. And then everybody crashed, I think, anyway. So, man, I was just like, holy crap, these guys are going to go for it, right? And I think I talked to you in Victory Lane. Like, I was surprised you were able to pull beside him off of 2 there with the rubber on the bottom, and it worked. So, you guys didn't wreck. So that was probably a blessing in disguise. When you mentioned about the money show and chasing that, you're not to say you're not competing for wins yet, but you're not a guy that when you pull into the pits, people are like, oh, hey, Melair's here, right? I know you have those goals and you're going to win races, but do you look at the winners total for what you look at, or are you trying to look at it going, hey, I'm a top 10 guy. What does 10th pay? What is my decision? Are you kind of there at this point, or you're thinking, hey, 20 grand to win, 20 grand to win, I'm going to win a race? Kind of, where's your mindset there?
I don't look at what really anything pays. If there's a race that weekend, we're going to try and be there. The reason we usually run Lincoln is because you get the most races per rebuild. So I just want to race as much as possible. Doesn't matter what 10th pays or what first place pays. Just want to get out there.
Honestly, it's a refreshing take, because that's all I hear anymore is, what does it pay to start? What does it pay for 20th? What does it pay down through the field versus the winner? It's a little exhausting at times, and I get it. If you're a racer, I can understand if that's what you're looking at. And the pros want to look at what it is to win, and I think everyone else is trying to figure out how to make it work for their budget and keep their team going. So I totally get it. But if you're not a pro team and doing it for a living, you're probably losing money and you're trying to get as much back as you can. But at the same time, it's just an exhausting argument. So a little bit of a refreshing take, to be honest, that you're, seat time and laps and how can I get better? So I can appreciate that for sure.
And fourth to 10th, I'm sorry. 4th to 10th, it pays close. And then, 11th to last pays close. So, I mean, unless you're winning races, the professional teams, if they're running 5th every week, they're not, it's nice going to a race that pays from top to bottom, and being able to offset your costs. But I'm going to go to where I want to race. Sometimes one race is $200 more to start than the other. So, what's the difference?
Yeah, no, again, refreshing answer from what we're used to hearing. So I appreciate your time. We're coming up on 40 minutes already. Like, holy crap. But the question I ask every driver, Santos has his, I have mine, Chris has his, but RIP, he's not here tonight. So,
I'll ask the answer.
That's good.
I'll ask.
Jimmy can ask. There you go. So you're going to name 2 drivers for me, and one driver you love racing around. You have a great time. It's always going to be a fun battle. Whether you never, there's not going to be any hard feelings if you do make contact, whatever. And then someone who's a pain in the ass to race with, not a personal attack, just somebody who's hard to pass. They're a thorn in your side to race around.
I don't know if I have enough laps to answer either of them. It seems like I'm around I've been around Lucas Wolf a lot this season, and he's a really good driver. You can learn a lot from, watching him race, and he's a guy that can, really keep the car under him and keep the car straight, and the car is kind of an extension of him. I think he's a really good driver, and he's really clean to race with. Somebody I don't like racing with. I can't answer that.
So here's how people have answered this, and there's only the 20 or 30 interviews we've done, maybe more. Only a few have been like, yeah, I don't like that guy. It's more of like if you're a NASCAR guy, the Ryan Newman effect, like the hardest guy to pass. They're fine. You don't dislike them, but just somebody that's a pain in your ass to either races you really hard or just really hard for you to get around. You know what I mean? It could be a 305 person. Y'all race wheel to wheel really close to 305s a lot, so it could have been even somebody there. It doesn't have to be a 410 driver.
I'll go with Billy Dietrich. He's really good at making his car wide, and he's really good at listening. I feel like he's got eyes in the back of his head sometimes.
Yeah, that's a good one, and that's exactly kind of the when I had thought of that question, that was sort of my vision for it, right? Not somebody like I don't need people like creating issues for themselves or other people from what my stupid ass question. But yeah, just that, right? Like Chris Frank was, or no, Ashley Capetta was Chris Frank, right? Because they run the same line, so it was like I can't. What am I going to do, right? So and Danny last week was Brent, just for the racing reasons, right? Not so much the personal things, for sure. So no, great answers for sure. Jimmy, go ahead and do Chris's.
Yeah, Chris's question usually is if there's one event, doesn't even have to be 410s, it could be whatever, but there's one event that you can win in the entire racing world, what would it be? And why?
Probably Indy 500. That's the biggest of the big, but 410s. I would love to win the Tuscarora 50. I think that's an awesome race.
Hell yeah! Yeah, it's that race continues to grow, and also you got Weikert there, so they got two big races now there, and they know how to put on an event, that's for sure. Yeah, so I guess before we get you out of here, thank you for your time. Glad to get to know you. Do you have any plans yet for 2025, or is that you kind of have to break it down maybe at the end of the season, and kind of revisit there?
Yeah, we'll be linking mostly again. Want to try and get to port if it's expensive to race at port. You need the mule for qualifying, and it's tough to run there with the resources that we have and being a Lincoln car. But I do want to get up there some more.
Cool deal. So before we let you go, who do you want to give a shout out? Sponsors, team members, obviously, or whatever. Who do you want to give a shout out to that helps you get to the track every week?
My mom, my brother. My brother really helps a lot. We're putting a new car together right now, and he's helping me with that and doing tires. And Bloss Plumbing, that was a sponsor that we picked up for this year. Awesome people. And then H. Cornell and Son. Yeah, that's about it.
And we're talking about
Lee too. He's the man.
Hell yeah. And then before we let you go, we were talking about shirts before. Should I message you on Facebook? Do you have like a racing page on Facebook?
Yeah, I just put one together. I have yet to share it though and try and get some followers on it. So,
okay.
Domenic Melair Racing.
Okay, cool. We'll try to get that link out there after the show or tomorrow morning or something. So we can. There seems like a couple people probably want some shirts, probably myself included. So thanks again so much for joining us, and best of luck here in the future. And I think we'll be hearing a lot more about you there.
Thanks, Jimmy and Jeremy. I appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
Thanks, man. We'll see you this weekend, buddy. Good luck.
Domenic Melair. Those are the interviews that I really love that we do, because you just find like just that's a racer. Like,
Yeah.
getting every resource he can to get together, and he just wants to be, like he said, I don't care about pay necessarily. I just want to get out there and race. You know what I mean? And he's been with that mentality. Yeah, I'm sure there's been maybe some equipment stuff, like you kind of said, that helped, but them learning off the track, on the track, continually getting better. That's the only way you can, And I think it's just it's been really refreshing hearing some of his takes there on the way he views it, and just kind of just seeing that progression.
Yeah, for sure. I'm glad we got him on here and get to know a little bit about him, because I think he's going to be one. Obviously, sources and everything goes right. He's one of those guys on the radar, right? Just like we've talked over here the last couple of years, especially these Lincoln guys. That are sort of like they're starting to peek their head in here into the equation and the conversation. And I know we're not alone in it, but the guys that we picked out late last year, early this year, that has all come to fruition. And we were already talking about a couple of those guys, I think on last week's show or the week before, a couple shows ago, about like that next 2025. And I think he, equipment and opportunities there. This is a guy that's got to be on the radar for some wins next year. I really do think so. Maybe time trials. I don't know, but a handicap show gets to start up near the front. Absolutely, a guy who can go pick off one of these wins while he's still gaining experience and speed, right? Because you go look at these guys right now. You look at the time trial rundown every week at Lincoln, because they haven't had a handicap show since June, I want to say, or something. Basically, Speed Week and beyond has been time trials every week at Lincoln in some form. And you go look who time trials up front. It's occasionally someone who had that first, second, third draw, and it's Chase, Troy, Freddie, Danny, Macri. Brandon Raymer got to the top this past weekend. He was the first car out, which, congratulations. Brandon has speed, but does he go quick time if he's 20th, right? He hasn't really done that over a lot, and I'm not taking a shot, but like, that's tough to do.
Yeah.
And it's not that Domenic doesn't have the speed, but he's a guy that is in that pack of like, I'm starting to figure it out. I got my equipment and my experience, put it all together. He's going to be on that radar for wins, I think.
Yeah, I think so. And just to see how far he has come past few years, like, I mean, if I remember, he used to have like a duct tape 55 on his wing. You know what I mean? Like, yep. And now, and you can just kind of see that progression, and it's so refreshing to see. It's you can tell he's putting all the work in, learning as he's going, and just, there's not a lap or a moment wasted. He's taking that and building something positive there. I love to see it. All right, well, let's get into this past week in racing. And, sometimes here at Turn 2 Terribles, we just like winners. We just have that effect. Maybe Domenic will have that effect here this upcoming weekend. Last week's guest, Danny Dietrich, gets a win, a very emotional win for Danny in Victory Lane at Williams Grove over Troy Wagaman, Chase Dietz, TJ Stutz, and Tyler Ross at the top 5. Freddie Raymer, Cam Smith, Justin Whittle, Lucas Wolf, and Aaron Bollinger rounding out the top 10. Danny and Troy started on the front row. Danny got out in front. There was some lap traffic and stuff, but Danny just, he was on it. He was on it. He got hung up behind lap traffic at one point. Kind of let some of these guys like Troy, Dietz, and TJ Stutz kind of close in. But then he started getting around them. Knew it was time to go, and got it done. And he was very emotional in Victory Lane. To deal with Gary Kaufman's brother. That was very emotional in Victory Lane for them. And then, obviously, it was cool. He got out in turn 3 and pointed at the Billy Kimmel sign, which was a cool moment as well. So, good win for him. I was happy to see it. And you could tell, I don't want to say a weight's been lifted off his back, because we talked about it a little bit last week with him. Just kind of, they've been struggling, and but it's not because of a lack of speed necessarily. It's just haven't been able to get it done, and he put it all together on Friday night.
Yeah, it's actually kind of crazy that we talked about that last week, and brought up the has a 1 since July deal, but that's win 11 on the season.
Yeah.
Like, it's actually kind of crazy that we're talking about that, and it's win number 11. So, I know it felt good for him to get that done, and he had to earn it. That's for sure. Troy, he got out there in front of Troy, and because Troy drew the pole, and he beat Troy
Yes.
into one,
Mhm.
and kind of it was what it was for a bunch of laps there, and lap traffic definitely played a role as it always does at Williams Grove, and that's what the fans want to see because yeah, I mean, unless you're a Danny fan, right? Like if you're a Danny fan, you didn't want to see any lap traffic and you didn't want to see any other cars and just run away. But everybody else is going, okay, we're gonna have a race here, and they weren't far away. They weren't far behind, and made a little bit of a race. So he had to earn it for sure, and was really good on the bottom. Had to go to the top when he had to, but got the job done. So definitely happy for him to get that win, and like you said, a very emotional one for sure. So the timing of that probably good or bad there's something about the way the world works, right?
Yeah, right.
A little bit of fate. So Troy with another good run, Chase with another good run, Freddie still hanging around, didn't fall off for sure. Justin Whittall, he still keeps flashing. We're going to talk about this I think here in a minute, but man, another good run, and he was really good in that feature. Very aggressive, was running really well. So this was I watched this from a little bit different place in the feature, and it was very interesting to see Williams Grove from that angle. I was all the way down in entry to turn one in the grass behind the wall on the infield, and that was a very different perspective to watch it from there. These guys are good. Like, they're really good at this, by the way. I don't know what it's like, but they're really freaking good at this, the whole sprint car thing. So it was a good night.
Yeah. That's where I used to stand when I first started going to Williams Grove before Chris pulled me over to his section on the backstretch. But it's really cool to watch him kind of, especially when the track gets widened out like that. Watching them dive it in there into turn one, take different lines, and like they're having to make quick decisions. You know what I mean? And really set it up and then get that drive off the corner. But yeah, just honestly, I was happy for Danny. I really was, and you could just tell that win meant a lot to him and that team, and I know they're going through some stuff right now, and hopefully just thoughts of prayers with them, with Gary and his family.
A little bit of a side note. I don't know if it's too early for a spoiler alert. Do you think should we spoil anything coming up maybe that we're gonna get into in the next few weeks? Because I think it might be a good time.
Yeah.
What's that? I think it might be a good time.
I think so.
We talked.
Good.
Yeah. No, we talked about this, I think, right after the race ended at Williams Grove, and that we've interviewed 9 of the top 11 in this finishing order. There's 2 guys on here that we haven't. We're probably going to complete 10 of that, number 10, at the National Open. So,
hell yeah.
I like the Pat McAfee show. I'm a big Pat McAfee guy, and they call it Up to Something season. Looks like the Turn 2 Terribles are going to do a live round table, square table, some sort of live show from the Chili Cook-Off on Saturday morning of the National Open. So it looks like Lucas Wolf will be in attendance, so we're going to get to chat with Lucas and some other guests. So if you're at the National Open and you're camping and you're hanging out, or you want to come up and check out the Chili Cook-Off and try some and spend the day at Williams Grove, come up and see Turn 2 Terribles. We're going to do a live show from Williams Grove on Saturday morning, I believe it is, and get some favorite drivers. So hopefully get some
probably
good
try some chili and stuff too. Where a couple of these drivers are going to be judging the Chili Cook-Off, and this is been a big tradition for a long time now that they put together, and it's a big deal. More details will be to come. We're still ironing out a couple things, but that's what we're setting up to do. I'm really excited for it. But yeah, we'll be there covering the Chili Cook-Off, previewing that night, probably recapping the night before, talking to some drivers, hopefully talking to some of you guys in the chat. Maybe if you guys come out, we'll talk to you guys and maybe try to get some, see what some of you fans think, and it's going to be a good time. We're really excited putting some of the stuff together. We've only ever done one other thing really like this before, and at Bridgeport last year, and still kind of new to it, but it's something we want to been trying to get more into. It's just, getting the opportunity and stuff like that. So we want to give a shout out to.
Well, the hardest part, to be honest with you, is Chris, because he doesn't go to the races. So, like, how do you get TPT to do this when he's not even around? This guy he's not even a race fan at this point. So,
Well, he'll be there because
just,
we'll be camping, so we'll be there all weekend.
if we can get Chris out of bed there's nothing better to cure a hangover than some chili. So,
Yeah.
probably that's not true at all, but we're gonna see if it works.
And it's a long like pretty much all morning. I think it starts at like 9.
Yeah.
I think he said it goes to like 1 or 1:30 when they finally decide, and so it'll be more details to come. But definitely come check it out. Even if it's not just for us, go check out the chili cook-off. It's going to be a good time, especially if you're a fan of chili. 358s. To be honest, I didn't watch the feature. I believe Dylan Norris won, didn't he?
He did.
Or he did.
Yeah, this was a pretty good one too. Justin Foster, he passed Justin Foster late. Justin Foster actually passed Chad Criswell. Criswell started on the pole and got gone, and Foster ran him down. And unfortunately, Justin Foster started running out of fuel with a few to go. And Dylan Norris got by and took the win. So his second win of the year at Williams Grove and at McClellan, number 6. Definitely a fast hot rod. So that was a fun feature to watch too. I was down in 3 and 4 for that one, and there was a cushion, and some of these guys were using all of it and more. It was a little sketchy even for those guys. So that was a good 358 feature as well.
That was off the heels of a 12th place finish in the 410 feature. So good for Dylan. Looking at the points here at Williams Grove, the track title, you have Freddie Raymer 250 points up on Troy Wagman, 510 points up on TJ Stutz. Lucas Wolf there in 4th and Danny Dietrich in 5th, but that's 1,200 points back. Troy's the only one kind of in a shooting distance, but it's pretty far. Freddie's he's just been so, we talked about this, he's just so damn consistent. Like, yeah, he hasn't won too much, and we're going to talk about him winning here in a little bit. But he hasn't won as much maybe in the past couple of years, but he's still like a 2nd to 6th place every week guy. And that's what wins track titles like this. And it's what you see there. And then in the Hoosier Diamond Series, they have 2 more races left with Danny Dietrich on top of that that title, with Troy Wagman in 2nd, 230 points behind. Chase Dietz, 270 points behind. Freddie Raymer, 310 points behind. And Lucas Wolf, 5th place, 320 points behind. So that's kind of tight, but I'm not sure exactly how many points you can get a night, but I feel like especially Freddie has at least almost a whole night kind of cushion on Troy.
Yeah, but let's be honest.
Anything could happen.
2 of those 4 races are what?
National Open, but so
National
anything.
Open, some big fields. A lot can change, and we've seen it happen before. So we'll see what it
Absolutely.
looks like going into National Open weekend. That's really going to tell you what kind of cushion he really has. The next 2 races, I don't know if I know that the tune-up is time trials. I forget if this weekend's time trials or not. I don't know if it's going to matter, but I looked at it earlier and forgot to look. But yeah, two normal shows, and then we're in National Open time. So
Wind it
We'll
down
see.
real quick here. Let's move on to Lincoln on Saturday, where Freddie gets a win. This is his first Lincoln win of the season, am I right?
it
First
is.
one, which is crazy after he dominated this place last year. Danny in 2nd, Chase Dietz rounding out the podium with Justin Whittle, Troy Wagaman, Tyler Ross, Brandon Raymer, Aaron Bollinger, Lucas Wolf, and Cameron Smith. The rest of the top 10. Jay-Z, this was the Rack Daddy's Rumble. $7,000 to Freddie. What'd you see from this race?
Well, I see that Freddie owns this race because they've had 3 Rack Daddy's Rumbles and he's won all 3 of them. So, which is wild. They're tired of giving Freddie checks, but he's not tired of taking them. So that's for sure. This was a fun one. Time trials were fun. It was up high in 1 and 2, and this track was unbelievable. I know, this was a 6 o'clock start. There was a 350 makeup here on top of a regular program, so it was a lot of laps. There was a lot of cars. There was a B main for both. And this track was in A main shape for heat races. And We don't always get that at Lincoln Speedway, that you have a feature surface in heats, and man, it was fun. There was a top, there was a bottom. It changed lanes. You could drive really hard. You could roll the bottom. Very, very entertaining heat races. There were comers and goers in these heats, and it was. I was entertained all night. I really was, and I thought it was going to be one of those midnight type nights. And once they got rolling, they got the show moving pretty good. And this was an entertaining race. I mean, Freddie did his job, but it was not. Again, it wasn't easy. It was an entertaining race. It was 33 laps, which I should have looked up because I didn't realize it was an oddball number. But it was 33 laps. Danny Chase and Justin Whittall, guys. Justin freaking Whittall. What, second? I actually walked through the pits and said, "Did you guys even remember how to get here?" I asked the team, and they said the damn GPS kept malfunctioning and ended up at Lincoln. So P4, like second race of the year, I think here maybe he was early, maybe one early in the year. So and this guy just keeps and honestly, watching him race this race from the time trials and in the heat, just roll the bottom. This guy is figuring it out like everywhere. It doesn't matter where right now. But what a hell of a battle! Dietrich, Dietz, Whittle, Wagaman, Ross. It was fun. It was a great to watch. It was sort of, Danny and Chase just battled wheel to wheel sliders, top, bottom. He was just driving really hard to try to get to Freddie. And I thought at one point, I think Chase was second, Danny started, got the second, Chase got the second, Danny took it back like on the last lap, all while they were running Freddie down in lap traffic again. So it was a good one. It was a really good one. I lost track after a minute what the hell's going on, what lap we were on, and how many there were. But that's okay. I was fine with that because I couldn't see the start finish line where I was standing anyway. So I was entertained. It was a really good weekend of racing, to be honest.
Yeah, I didn't see any of this. I wasn't there. So
he's like, I got nothing.
I got nothing really. Other than I see Domenic Melair, who was just on 14th, pretty good. And then Brett Strickler, I know he went from 9th in the B main to 16th in the A. Shout out to him. Fighting through a tough early night to get a decent finish there in the A main.
Yeah, 9th to 4th in the B. Drove to 4th. Yellow comes out, and Dallas Shot gave him all he could handle, and it was a photo finish to the start finish line for the last transfer spot, and then goes in and passes some cars. Unfortunately, Hitter, Hartlaw, Norris, all were taken out on a lap one crash. Maybe Ricky Peterson, maybe not. Pretty big pile up on lap one. Hartlaw ends up upside down. Super unfortunate off turn 2 there. Something happened with, I think, Dylan, and maybe hit the inside wall, maybe just spun out. I'm not sure, but it was a bad spot, and they all piled in, and Cody ended up upside down and off of 2 there. So sucks for him for sure. Hate to see cars get torn up, but this was a fun roster too. Dominic Melair, you had Borden obviously here, who he had the turned up headers. That car was screaming freaking loud. Reese Notarski was there, and Nash Ely came down, Mike Thompson, Ricky Peterson in the 98. So just a really cool roster and group of cars for this show. And this just goes to show you that these cars showed up on 7,000 to win, and they had just as many cars for 20 grand to win a couple weeks ago. Timing, travel, laps, motor, equipment, it all matters, and it all has these teams. Again, if you're not a Raymer, Dietrich, Dietz, Macri, does the 20 grand attract those guys? It clearly it doesn't, right? Because they were showed up for 7 grand here. Borden, Reese Notarski. So I assume I see him at BAPS this weekend. So I just think, with these car counts, this was a good one. There was no Port Royal to run it against, and there's no travelers around. This is a good field. This was a good roster for sure. So definitely happy to see it. Good car counts in the pits.
I think that's an interesting point too to talk about the car counts, because I think a lot of people automatically kind of just assume like, hey, no, Port Royal's done for a year, where else are some of these guys going to go run? Damn, Lincoln's got to get 40, 50 cars. It's really hard to get more than 30 cars on a non-sanctioned race, and Lincoln does it almost fitly. So 30, 35 cars is still good for a non-sanctioned 7 grand to win race. That's you can't expect guys from Port Royal who maybe be done for the year. Maybe they only allocated their equipment to run the Port Royal season or whatever, or maybe it's too far out of the way and they're not, they just don't feel comfortable there maybe, so still 30, they had 33, I think. It was like 33 or 34 that they had. It's still a very good car count, a very good roster of cars there at Lincoln. So let's take a look at their point standings, where Troy Ogman is up still in the points here, about 150 or whatever. It's quick math. 150 over Freddie, or is that 200? 250.
That's 155.
I don't know.
10 plus 45, 155 over Freddie, and then another 170 back to Campbell.
And then another 200 back from Campbell to Bollinger. Cam Smith, Brandon Raymer, Danny Dietrich, Tyler Ross, Chad Trout, and Cody Hartwell round out the top 10. But this is, Matt Campbell's right there. And honestly, Bollinger's not that far back, especially when they have, 3 more races?
Well, you're going to have an outlaw race now. You got
but does that count to their points?
I think so. Yeah, I think they do. So you're going to have the Sterner and the Outlaw show. Is there one more? I think there's one more.
I feel like there's like their championship weekend, right?
Yeah, I think there's 3. Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, this is going to come down to it. It's going to come down to the wire.
Especially with Freddie finally knocking a win off. And look at, Freddie's just been very consistent. We said it just about Williams Grove as well, but so is Troy. Troy's always up in that top 5,
Gained 120 points this weekend, right? So right there, it's Troy didn't have a horrible race. So it doesn't take much. That win is worth so much, man. That 350 is big. So, Freddie has Freddie has 4 wins. He's in the points lead, right? If he had a 4-win season, 4, he's a points leader, right? Troy hasn't won. Was that June? He won 2 races by June and hasn't since.
But there's a lot of guys that I don't see anybody on this list that has more than 2 wins on the season. There's been a lot of parity at Lincoln. Mm-hmm. So, it is pretty wild that Danny's 7th in points, even with missing 5 races there. Just goes to show, he's 1,400 points back of the points lead, but just goes to show how good he's been when he has been there, always in it. So we'll see. We'll have to keep an eye out on that one as well as we wind down the season here. We'll go to a high limit here at Lernerville. They were there for a 2-day show. Capped off with the $50,000 to win race on Saturday night, but on Friday night, Corey Day took the win for Cy Lynch, Tyler Courtney, Anthony Macri, James McFadden in the top 5, Brett Marks, Brad Sweet, Jacob Allen, Spencer Beeston, and Tanner Thorson back in the 88. Rounding out the top 10, you had quite a few posse guys go out for this. Obviously, you see Macri. Lance DeWeese made the trip out. Logan Wagner, who finished last in this one with some mechanical failure. But he looked very good. We're going to talk about him more on Saturday here. Lucas Wolf was out there. No, sorry, not Lucas Wolf. Ryan Smith was out there. I feel like I'm missing one. Oh, TJ Stutz, we'll talk about him. He ended up making the trip out on Saturday for his first ever Lernerville visit, and he looked pretty damn good. But in this one, this was all Corey Day. He's just one of those guys where I think it's one reason why maybe Logan Wagner's such a likes this track so much is when you have a lip up at the top and you can just rip that top. There's not too many people better than Corey Day right now at doing it. Macri's pretty good. Obviously, we know how Logan Wagner is at places like Port Royal, but man, it's just he was just ripping. This was his to lose. Cy Lynch with a very good second place, looked good all weekend as well. That's
Jimmy,
all I got. Yeah,
we got it. We have to go back a second. I need a real quick note. 358s at Lincoln. We had Seth Schnoke gets his first career win in the makeup feature and wins the Summer Series Championship points series. So first year in 358, the guy's out here winning 358 races. He's winning Summer Series points. He locked that up. And then Andy Best with his second 358 win of the season. He won the Grove. and he's the one at Lincoln now, maybe second one at Lincoln. Yeah, first repeat winner in a Ford power plant in 358. So just some cool stuff going on there with 358s. I didn't want to forget
Forgot
that
about
completely.
that. My bad.
And our buddy Chase Gutshaw made both races, didn't hurt anything, didn't blow up any motors, didn't wreck any cars, didn't flip off any flaggers. Great weekend for him. So, great weekend for the guy, our buddy Chase.
I believe on the makeup feature too, the money that was put up for T2T to ninth place went to Kyle Spence, friend of the show and Aunt Bay. So good for them. But yeah, I'm sorry about that. I totally forgot about the 358.
No, it's okay. As soon as you went to flip it, I was like, oh yeah, we don't have a slide for it, but we got to acknowledge our guys. So
for sure,
it was a good night of racing for them. They had a really good feature. Their first feature, that track was pretty fast for a 358. It's a little bit of a rough start getting going, but once they got that feature going, that was a good one. So very, very cool to see there. That was a lot of laps, long night for those teams, and some made out better than others the way the night went. Some teams had some rough ones. Logan Rumsey had a rough weekend. Wrecked his own car, Williams Grove. Wrecked his backup, was his 410. Put a 358 in it. Wrecked that in the makeup feature on lap 1. And then I think he did make a finish finally in the regular feature. He did make it out of the B main in the second one. So Logan had a rough weekend. I'm not getting into the drama in that today. So let's keep moving on. Night 2 of Lernerville.
Night 2 of Lernerville. This looked like it was going to be back-to-back Corey Day, Cy Lynch, top 2. But Corey Day has a rear tire fly off. It sounded like the entire axle broke while he was leading big, and then took a big tumble down the embankment on the backside of turn 2. They couldn't even find the tire. It went that far out. So unfortunately, that took him out. Tyler Courtney ends up getting the win here. He looked very good over Cy Lynch, James McFadden, Tanner Thorson, Spencer Baston, Brad Sweet, Jacob Allen, Emerson Axum, Zeb Wise, and Chris Wyndham in the top 10. Anthony Macri there in 11th. Logan Wagner, who looked good. He actually started on the pole of this at 12th. He kind of slid back the back half of this feature. And Brett Marks in 13th. Ryan Smith, 17th. TJ Stutz. He actually made the transfer out of his heat race. First time ever at Lernerville. But I think he had a tire or something. He got involved. Rico Abram got turned in front of him. And that was it for their night, unfortunately, like on lap 1 or lap 2.
Yeah, this one was interesting. I actually was able to had this on my phone and was watching Corey Day lead this thing, and the right rear came off. The axle broke. Right rear came off down over the hill. Brent Marks inherits the lead, and then he gets a right rear flat as soon as he took the lead. So I put my phone down, looked away, looked back up, and he's pulling in the pits, changing the right rear. So the leader was a bad spot to be the first half of this deal. But sucks for Brent, right? We were just talking. He hasn't won since Grandview. Had a good car all weekend. Gets the lead there. He's fortunate enough to be in second. I think it was going to finish there or better. Don't know, but just some bad luck strikes. So, but very cool to see Cy Lynch with 2 P2s. Hometown boy defending his turf. Crowd was loving that. For sure. And good to see Thorson back in his car and getting a good finish. And Spencer Baston, man, top 5. That was much needed for them. It's a big top 5 for that team.
Yeah, back top to top. 2 top 10s for both him and Thorson on their way back here this weekend. And Cy Lynch, back-to-back P2s. Anyone would say that's great, but I think he was a little disappointed because he probably thought he probably was the guy to beat at times. But Tyler Courtney comes away with the $50,000, just kind of what he does. Chris Wyndham, though, with the top 10 was kind of out of nowhere, in my opinion. Emerson Axum just continues to impress. AJ Flick was in the 71, and also in the other 71 was actually Ricky Thornton Jr. making his 410 debut. He did not make either feature, but he did get some laps. So, any other thoughts from these races?
No,
just
sir.
Going through these quick. Take a quick look at the points here. Brad Sweet has a 245-point lead on Tyler Courtney. 280 points. Enrico Avery. Those three guys are pretty comfortable. Obviously, Brad Sweet's pretty comfortable right now. He kind of just, there's not too many races left. I think they have like 3 more weekends maybe. They have maybe 7 or 8 races or so. So Brad Sweet's looking pretty good. He just got to keep doing what he's doing. He's probably gonna win that title. Brent is 399 back. He's just, and then you get around 5th place here, and they're all fighting for this charter. And you got Corey Day right now in 5th. James McFadden only a few points behind him, and Justin Peck is also right there. And Spencer Baston, he's 150 or so points behind, or actually 200 points behind, but he's been running really strong as of late. So you never know what could happen. And I didn't look into it, but I do know that Corey Day is running 4 truck races with Hendrick, not with Hendrick, but with HendrickCars.com sponsorship, basically backed by Hendrick. So I don't know how that's going to affect him here. Is he going to miss races now? He's right in that number 5 spot to try to get that charter, to try to get some of that profit sharing with the streaming. Is he going to be able to make all these races, or is this going to open it up for McFadden or Peck to kind of?
Yeah, I feel like he's going to finish off the season. I think it should be fine. I don't know that, but I'm more concerned about next season. If he continues to get, and I saw an interview today with the car owner, and they talked about next year. He wants to continue sprint car racing. He loves it. He wants to continue doing it in the future, no matter what his NASCAR asphalt side is. But he's not going to be full time next year. So even if he gets the charter spot, they're not putting anyone else in the car. That's what they kind of confirmed.
So maybe
they forfeit the spot, even if he gets it.
I have a feeling he's probably going to miss some races here because trucks run on Friday, Saturday.
Right?
He's going to miss a couple races here, so that probably knocks him out of this top 5, and it's going to be pretty much between McFadden and Peck, and maybe Basic to kind of sneak back in there then, because then he's only about 150 points behind of that cut. So interesting, especially with the way that's working out. Parker Price Miller and Corey Eliason round out the rest of the top 10 in points right now. They're way out, though, of that 5th spot. Probably not enough points for them to make up to even get in that conversation. And both those guys have things going on with their ride. Parker Price Miller went into that 25 that Jason Persley was running. And then it just was announced a little bit before we went on air that Corey Eliason is losing his ride next year. They could not find funding to secure the second car, which is that 8 car that he's in now, for next year. Unfortunate for him, but he's kind of used to it. He's been, I want to say ride bouncing, but he knows how this goes. When it comes to funding and just kind of, just trying to find rides. He's a good enough national driver. We know that. He hasn't really won a ton. He does have a win at BAPS earlier this year, but I don't think he has any other win other than that. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of speculation. We'll talk about that a little bit later, though.
Yeah, silly season just getting started, by the way. So now you take Corey Eliason and lose a car, right? It's not just swapping now. Corey Eliason, right? You're losing a car. Dylan Cisney, we're losing a car.
Yes.
The 14, we're probably losing a car and a full-time driver. Now, we're not going to lose the combo, but you're not going to have a full-time, right? So no one's going to be replaced into that. So now you didn't net gain a car because Corey Day will still be in that car when it's there. I don't know. Even if someone fills in here, it's not what they're going to want, a part-time deal. So then we're hearing rumors of the 13. Maybe there's something going on there. Is the 5 going to make a change? The 83, McFadden's going back over to Australia, right? That's pretty much confirmed. So there might be an opening there if they decide to continue with 2 cars.
Yeah, so take a look at this top 10 here, and really, I'm not even saying. I mean, I'm sure Brent will. If he gets this charter here, I would imagine he would go back out on tour next year again. You know what I mean? He's still, very competitive, can win a lot of races, can win some money. But then you take a look at the rest of these guys, and it's like, who's back next year? You know what I mean? And it's still a very, very good high limit roster, very promising roster. But now, you got those top 4. Now what do you have? Now they're going to have to really go recruiting, especially when it sounds like maybe one of these guys are going to flip over to World of Outlaws, and the Outlaws are probably going to have another 4 or 5 new guys next year. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens here. If there's maybe other Outlaw guys on the tour right now that maybe switch over to High Limit, try to balance it out. What happens? It's going to be something. Not just who goes to what ride, but who commits to where, because that's going to be very contingent that's going to be very big for High Limit to continue this momentum that they started. Because I don't think it's a fact of High Limit's doing anything wrong, or what they brought has really helped boost the entire sprint car world right now. Is it sustainable? And that's what we're going to find out starting next year.
Yep, no doubt. I agree.
And yeah, I mean, before we get into the Outlaws here, Dylan Sissy's another one that we found out that is losing his ride, and it's not same thing with the 8 car. It's not just losing a driver potentially; it's losing a car, and that's never a good thing either. So hopefully, both Corey and Dylan can find another ride, and maybe hopefully it's a new startup team and keep these car numbers up. World of Outlaws, we're in California real quick. Buddy Kofoid sweeps the weekend. Carson Macedo, back-to-back third-place finishes. Good weekend for both of those guys. And then looking at the points here, this is probably the most intriguing points battle right now, because David Gravel, as good as he's been, that points lead is shrinking and shrinking and shrinking every weekend, especially as they're out on the West Coast. Only 86 points up now in Carson Macedo. Carson Macedo actually has more top 5s than David Gravel at this point, which is kind of surprising. But I guess not. And now, because Donnie Schatz was in second until 3-4 weeks ago, he was in second place.
Macedo really is going on a run here.
Yeah, and now you got Donnie Schatz 132 points behind, which is still in striking distance, considering the amount of races they have left. And then you have Gio Selzy and Buddy Kofoid rounding out the top 5, with Sheldon Hansfield and Logan Sheward pretty much out of shooting range, but going to try to get themselves in the top 5. And then you got Baylog, Zero Foss, Crawley, Kinzer, and Rose. Oh, way back. Yeah, but it's very interesting here, especially that top 3, and a guy like Gio and Buddy. Especially with Buddy winning back-to-back races here, this bump, get up to 5 wins on the season. They can sneak in here. You know what I mean? Especially if Gravel's not necessarily struggling, but I mean back half of the top 10. If you're finishing 8th to 15th place, and these guys are getting podiums every week, that's what happens with this points league.
Yeah, it can happen in a hurry. We've seen it before. Both ways. A guy can really extend a points lead or can really lose it. But the one that really gets to me, and maybe I'm not following it close enough because I maybe I'm just behind. But Gio's really cooled off, or is that just me?
Yeah, I agree. No, he's cooled off for a while now. He's running strong. I mean, look at the top 5 numbers in their top 10s. They're top 10 almost. They have 50 starts and they almost have 50 top 10s. You know what I mean? Like. There's not many races where we're outside, But then you look at a guy like Sheldon Hansfield, who has 8 wins, but only 38 top 10s, and that's why he's 360 points back. He just doesn't have that consistency.
Yeah, I mean, everybody should be just thanking Brad Sweet that he left, right? And made this interesting, So there's that. You're welcome.
But I mean, we've kind of seen this with Brad Sweet too in the Outlaws the past 2 years, where he starts to cool off around this time. We always say that when he comes into PA, he kind of just doesn't seem to run as well. You start getting towards the end of the season, and it becomes kind of a points race of sorts when they go into World Finals. But it's not as close as this. David Gravel usually is the one kind of pushing here. Now it's kind of the other way around. Now it's like he's the one kind of cooled off, and these other guys are really making a push. So taking a look at this upcoming weekend, Williams Grove has the Kevin Gobrecht Challenge, 410 sprint cars and 358 sprint cars on Friday night, $20 to get in. I'm not sure if that's a time trial event or not, but I feel like it would be at this point.
Yeah, I don't know.
But we'll find out there. Saturday, Lincoln is dark in terms of 410 sprint car racing, but they do have the 2024 PA Karting Grand Nationals there on Saturday. So all you karting guys, I'm sure that place will be packed with a lot of karts. Still a pretty cool deal.
Friend
And
of the
then-
show, Matthew Bird, participated in that last year, probably back in it this year. I saw he's putting a new cart together. Saw his big ass at Lincoln on Saturday. I mean, he stands like a damn statue in the infield. You walk around, he casts a shadow in the dark. He's so damn big. But yeah, friend, it was good to see him and the family. He had the little one out over the weekend, so it was good to see them.
If he is racing at Lincoln, good luck, man. I hope you go and bring it down. And then Saturday, Baps gets the 410s with the Super Sportsman, the final Super Sportsman race of the year, I believe. $10,000 to win. I'm not sure. I just saw it on the flyer now. I didn't take a look at what the $2,500 challenge bonus is for Williams Grove. Is it who finishes the highest, maybe, or if you win both races? I don't know. I have to look into that and see what that is. I don't know if anybody in the chat knows. I just saw it on the flyer. I'm like, oh, $2,500 challenge bonus. But this is the Kevin Gobret Classic. This is one of 3 remaining 410 races for BAPS. And it's on a Saturday night. Should be a good time. I expect 40 cars, to be honest. I can't, they were getting 45 cars on a friggin' Sunday. A Saturday night where nobody else is running. I expect a big car count here.
Yeah, I'm hyped for this one. It's been a while since I've been at BAPS. I'm excited to get back there. Weather looks pretty good at this point. And expect good car counts, good money to win. I know there's a lot of teams that like this place, and looking forward to getting back there and hoping for a great show.
Yeah, I plan on going most likely. But yeah, I'm excited for this one. So get to the track if you can. Thomas Senseney in says BAPS
Yes.
some more 358 races. Agreed.
I told Colton that earlier this year. I need to get him there more.
This would have been a
figure out how
great.
to make that work.
I appreciate what they're doing here. Super Sportsmen are pretty much their premier weekly division, and they're giving them that slot with the 410s, as they should. That's what track should do. To try to bring them fans back. Hey, 410s are the draw in, but hey, we got this going on every week. But it would be nice to see 358s there a little bit more often. I do appreciate that BAPS gives them 358 headline races, I guess, if you want to call it that. You know what I mean? Where they're the main division. So I think more tracks should do that, to be honest. But yeah, I would love to see 358s there a little more often. Friday's winner is an automatic qualifier for BAPS from Williams Grove. Thank you, Mandy. The extra bonus is if they win at BAPS as well, I guess. That's what I'm assuming, too. I did not realize the winner is automatic qualifier.
I heard something about
cool.
Yeah, I heard something about this, but I don't know the details. I'll have to look it up. But if y'all want to look it up, go look it up. Go to BAPS. Just go to BAPS and find out. Dave Hare will be happy to tell you and say, thank you. Love it.
First he'll say, what up? And then he'll say, thank you.
What up? I love it. I can't wait to get
back. That's really it. I know the 4 Crown Nationals are this weekend for High Limit at Eldora. I was possibly going to go to that, but I don't think that's going to be able to happen now. With 4 Crown midgets and USAC sprint cars, awesome weekend there. And then I believe Outlaws are still in California. I think they go to Tulare.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's really it. Any other, I guess before we do drink it or dump it, any other thoughts? I guess we got to give a rest in peace to Lynn Paxton. He did pass over the weekend. We knew he wasn't doing. He's been fighting for a while, and I know that's a big loss to the racing community around here, especially with what he did with the Eastern Museum of Racing and all that. So, yeah, so that's a tough one. Yeah,
no doubt.
Yeah. let's get into drink it or dump it real quick. Put your picks in the chat. Drink it to somebody that had a great weekend. Dump it to somebody who maybe had not such a great weekend. Put them in the chat, and then we will read them here. We'll go first. I'll go first. I'm gonna go with I'm gonna drink it to Brett Strickler. Just having to fight through what he did, get through in the skin of his teeth in that B main, and have a positive A main. Shout out to him. I'll also give a drink it to Danny as well, with a win in the second place on a pretty tough weekend for that crew as well. And then dump it. I'm gonna dump it to the Philadelphia Eagles. Damn it! Sorry, pissed me off. Go ahead, Jay-Z.
All right, I'm going to drink it to Danny. Need to thank him again for coming on the show last week. It was a big one for us. Great viewership, some followers, so we appreciate that so much. And
Yes.
the time that we put into this, I can't tell you that we put full-time job time into this show, but this is time from our families and our free time, and we love it. Don't get me wrong, but so it was cool to have that pay off in viewers, and thank you all for tuning in and commenting, and got some good feedback from the track this weekend. Met some of our listeners, and they really enjoyed the interview and listening to Danny and his view and feedback, and seemed like he had a good time for sure. So shout out Danny, and drink it to his win, getting back on the winning side of things. Dump it, a little bit of a homer pick here, but Cody Hartlaw, that sucks. Listen, guys tear up cars all the time. It happens, but just they've been struggling a little bit, and I know Cody well, and got to get some confidence back and feeling good, and felt like they made a little bit of progress at Williams Grove on Friday. The results may not have shown it in the rundown, but felt like they were working towards something there that Williams Grove that they've been struggling with, and didn't have his normal time trial effort, I think, at Lincoln, and quite like he's used to, and just sort of set him behind a little. So dump it to those guys. I'm sure there's more dump-its out there. Some of the losses this weekend in our world, the sprint car world, but we'll go with those two for the week.
Yeah. Randy says, drink it to DD and Cy Lynch. Dump it for Lee Paxton. Tyler also says, RIP to Gary Kaufman's brother, Wayne. Matthew Bird says, drink it. I'll make it to BAP Saturday. Dump it too. I got to work till 4 p.m. Saturday. I ain't going to miss Lincoln. That sucks, man. But it'll be cool to see you at BAPS. That's for sure. At least you get to go to see some racing if you can't race yourself. Steph says, dump it to Corey Day and Brett Marks. Yeah, they had good revs going. That's a tough way to end their night. And drink it to DD. Mandy says, drink it to Domenic Melair interview. Danny winning after being interviewed by T2T earlier in the week. And then dump it to Hartlaw at Lincoln, Corey Day, and the Eagles game. Absolutely. I agree on every single one of those. Couldn't have said it better myself. As always, drink it to all of you guys in the chat. Listening the next day. We appreciate all the feedback. Like Jay-Z was just saying before, it's been cool to meet people throughout the year, as long as we've been doing this, getting feedback on how we could be better, and just kind of all that. So we really appreciate everybody tuning in, taking their time out of their day to listen to us, and have a conversation with us every week. So that's it. Thanks, you guys, for tuning in a day late. And we will see you guys next week. Hopefully with Chris. We'll be back next week. Shout out to Chris.